reality therapist perception.
Bachelorette. Hello and welcome back to Reactivity TV, where we give our therapist takes and perspectives to all things trending in TV and movies. I'm Amy Albero.
And I'm Catherine Van Eyck. We are licensed therapists.
And we also, not all of us are, so we have a new co-host. Catherine is going on maternity leave, and we needed to find the right person to take her place. And so, come on in, new co-host.
How is everyone doing?
Can you introduce yourself?
I'm Chris.
And Chris is my husband, and he's going to be joining me as my new co-host for now, as a temporary co-host.
Because they're still looking for the perfect one.
Well, I already have the perfect one. She's just going to be a little preoccupied for now.
I will do my best to fill in.
So yes, welcome to Chris, my husband, who will be co-hosting with me during Catherine's beginning journey in motherhood. And, we thought that today we could talk about why Catherine and I thought that you could be a good guest for me.
I would like to know that too.
I just want to also say I'm really excited about this because it's just going to be so great. Your dynamic, your banter, it's going to be fabulous.
Hopefully I don't regret it, but we'll see. So Chris and I were talking about this. So Chris doesn't really watch TV or doesn't really watch reality TV.
Can I tell two stories about how little TV I watch?
Sure, go for it.
Okay, so the NFL season ends around the second week of February. Apparently, my TV broke, or my cable box broke right after that, or basically it was the third or fourth week of February. And I didn't know until September of the next, of like September, as in like 7 months later. And I found that out when I tried to turn the preseason NFL game on, and there was a big giant red X across my TV. And I called the cable company and like, yeah, your cable box broke back in February. Second story. So Amy, once she had to travel and she was gone for a week, she paused the TV on the show she was watching. She got up and left the house, left for a week, came back, she turned the TV on, and she turned the TV back on and it was still paused at the exact same spot. She looked at me and said, "You didn't turn the TV on for the entire week?" But no.
Wow.
So what I'll say about Chris is that he doesn't initiate TV watching, but when I'm watching any of the shows that we talk about, and including The Bachelor, he's, working away on his laptop. Who's that? What's happening?
That's not.
This show's insane. So he's familiar with the concept of The Bachelor, and The Bachelorette, Bachelor in Paradise, all the Bachelor franchise. But we have a lot of fun talking about relationships. Our relationship, we talk a lot about that on Wishing You Well, that you and I, Catherine, both like in being therapists and in being in relationships, we talk a lot about relationships and we talk about our relationship. And so we thought it could be interesting to bring our dynamic as two people in a relationship talking about people who are exploring relationships.
Also, with the caveat of one of you being a therapist, one of you not, that'll be really interesting.
Oh, yes, that's a really, really good point. Chris is not a therapist. Not a therapist. So this is not a therapist take, and this will be. So that, yes, disclaimer there.
Yeah, I as a more standard, typical male, I like to get to the root of a problem and solve it. Not necessarily, whereas you like to help others facilitate solving their own problems. I don't have time for that. I just want to solve the problem.
You have a good understanding of what therapy is then.
You're just saying that for the crowd.
The other reason why, Chris and I were, I would say I'm excited to have Chris here talking about this particular show, The Golden Bachelor, that's what we'll be talking about today, and for the most of your leave, is that Gerry is the same age as our parents, or in context. And so we were kind of thinking it would be interesting to view it like from the position of being the same age as Gerry's kids, and thinking about our parents being in this stage of life, exploring dating and relationships. We both have parents that remain together, that are in, marriages of 40 plus years. And so
despite no one understanding why on either side.
Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I'm excited. I'm excited for conversations that we could have.
Mm-hmm. Me too. I will say, as an adult child of divorced parents, different than where Gerry's kids are at. Their mom died in 2017, but the idea around them rooting for their dad, and we kind of saw that in one of the promos, that they're all just like really excited for him to find the one. I'm in that similar position where like I'm rooting for both of my parents. I want them to both find somebody. And so I felt that when I was watching that promo. I felt like, yeah, I get this. This is cool. Mm-hmm. I see where they're coming from.
You feel invested in your parents, like finding happiness or love at this stage in life.
Yes. Yeah. So even though I won't be with you guys in this, I'll be watching, hopefully.
You know what I find interesting is when you look at the kind of the arc of acceptance over time of, say, child and parent, right? Obviously, the kind of the younger and less mature you are, the more you sort of view your parents as, even if they are divorced, they're still your parents, and there's still a level of selfishness where you want them to believe and want what you want, and ultimately you want them to get back together or something like that. You don't necessarily want outsiders coming in. And then as you get older and more mature, and you had some life experience yourself, and you recognize some of your own things that make you happy or make you feel fulfilled, you sort of turn that corner, and now suddenly you reach a point where you really just do want your parents to be, to find that companionship once again, and to find once again kind of the purpose in life and that enjoyment and fulfillment. I think that was sort of like kind of, you could tell that the kids there at that point, which is really nice, because if you do this a few 10 years younger, or you do this with the kind of the main setup where the person's usually around 30 or sometimes in their 20s, something like that. Mm-hmm. And they have these young children, that's a very different dynamic. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of an interesting, I think, play on the entire thing.
Right.
For fact, he has 3 daughters, all daughters?
2 daughters. The other person in that, like the promo with his dog, is his granddaughter.
So can we talk about that for a second? Because I, among also not really watching TV, I don't use social media. And so you sent me the clip to watch in preparation for this. And I don't, was it TikTok or Instagram or one of them? Yeah. One of those, right? So I don't really understand, I don't use those. So I didn't realize that there are not advertisements. And when it came on, the coloring, the setup, the whole layout, I ignored it the first time because I thought it's like September. I legitimately thought that it was like a cute, like kind of holiday Christmas commercial for like dog food. And then we got to like the end and I was like, oh wait, was that it? And I had to like rewind it and rewatch the whole thing. I mean, the coloring.
Oh, because you're a YouTube guy, so you're used to ads coming on first. Before you watch what you want to watch. Yeah,
like I didn't realize, like I didn't. So yeah, like audience, like comment. Am I mistaken here, or did that just look like a Purina dog food commercial? The color, the light, he's playing with the dog. It's just Christmas time dog food commercial. It was giving. It was giving. Is that what the kids say?
You're so right. It did kind of like if they had just said like Purina at the end, it would have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sponsor us. No, sorry.
the thing that they're doing in the promos, which I'm interested to see will translate into the show, is that they're giving the promos like this sepia tone. Like they're all kind of like a little bit.
Is sepia one of those filter things?
Oh yeah, that was like the original like Instagram filter was like this like sepia tone. But I was like, is this like their branding because of like Golden Bachelor and like give everything this like gold hue? I don't know. I don't understand. I feel very confused by it.
Well, okay. What doesn't confuse me about it is that when I think back to like my grandparents growing up, everything's black and white. Mm-hmm. Like if I picture their life, it's black and white. When I picture my parents growing up, everything is sepia. Like it's not in color yet. So I can jive with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be I'm just curious about what they'll do like from a editing, like production standpoint. But I guess I was thinking about something you were saying before, which is like Gerry and all of these women are in such a different life stage than the men and women we see typically on the franchise. We see people as young as like 22, sometimes 21, dating. They are at like the beginning of adulthood. And then now we have Gerry and again, this cast of women that have lived through those chapters. Like, and I'm just wondering, I guess we'll see like what their goals for dating, for relationship are, for life are at this stage. And I'm not saying that as a way at all to say like their life is over, so what's the point? But no, I'm more curious about their perspective on love, their perspective on relationships, and what they'll get out of this show. Because we talk, Catherine, you and I, all the time, that it's like this race to engagement. And I don't know that we're going to see the same kind of motivations with Gerry and these ladies as we do on the regular franchise.
Well, I think you're going to see a very, very different dynamic for a couple of important reasons. The first is 20-year-olds, most of them can't accurately define love, right? Most of them haven't been in a position even to truly to love somebody. So yeah, as you say, the race to engagement, and there's more of a pageantry about it, where when you kind of already been there, done that, now you're going to the second time you've done this, or maybe third time you've done this, but you just later in life, we have so much more life experience. I think that you're going to see people asking very different questions. Mm-hmm. I think you're going to see Gerry kind of cull the group in very different ways than I think that the audience will be used to seeing. I think it's for the good, because I think another holiday. Holidays keep coming up in my mind, but I remember this one time I was at the mall buying Christmas gifts. This was early in our relationship. We were probably engaged, but not married yet. And I was at the food court. And there was it was a Jewish couple sitting right next to me, and it was Christmas time, and we got into a nice conversation. And I was probably 26, 20, somewhere around there at that point in time. And we ended up having like a half an hour conversation in the food court with this random, they were probably 66, 68, somewhere in that time. And it was one of the most interesting and informative conversations about the concept of love I ever had. That's kind of the perspective you can get from somebody who's been there, done that, experienced love, especially a widower as opposed to a divorcee. So yeah, I'm interested to see the takes that we're going to get from Gerry and the women, mm-hmm. and the questions they ask and the way they approach it. It comes back to the teaser video. I really had a problem when it was the two daughters and somebody else,
granddaughter.
Right? Granddaughter. Okay, this is probably the granddaughter because it was the youngest looking one. And she said something to the effect of, Gerry asks, how do I go about the modern dating scene? And the women start to offer up opinions. And already I was like, my hackles were raising. I was like, no. Have you seen the modern dating scene? It sucks. Like, your generation was way better at dating than anything we're doing now. You need to stick to what was tried and true and good. Don't try to, start taking advice of some 20 and 30 something year olds. Wrong advice, right?
Well,
Wrong
yes
advice.
and no, though, because the world has changed since Gerry's dated, 50 years ago.
Correct. Yes.
I probably didn't even remember what he did. He married his high school sweetheart.
Yeah.
Good for him. Yeah, good for him. No, I hear that, but I just think that I think that this is an opportunity for the world to see dating how it still should be, not the way it is. And I hope that that's the editing job that they take with this show, because I haven't seen all the promotional materials, but I've seen enough to know that this seems like a very genuine, nice guy. It seems like somebody who loved long and hard one person. And there's a lot of insight that he can provide about what it takes to make a relationship strong and how to pick the right person. I hope that we get that side of what Gerry can offer, and we get less of the rat race to the engagement type situation.
Right. When Catherine, you and I do this podcast, we always talk about like the fact that we're therapists and like we're going to be as objective as we can. But of course, like our humanity and our personality and like our subjectivity get involved, like our biases get involved. And so Chris just kind of exposed himself as a little bit of quite a traditionalist, I guess, when it comes to dating and relationships. And Chris has also said multiple times, like, he loves being a husband. Like that is something that a role that he really enjoys.
What I'd say is I am an individual who wears a lot of hats. Most of us do as we get older. You could be, husband, you have roles at work, we have, business relationships, your friends, your, son, daughter, whatever there's so many different hats and things that you wear, so many responsibilities to take on, father, grandfather, grandmother, whatnot. Right. But one thing that I can say is, and this came as a shock to me. I really was not the type of person where I just assumed I would get married, but I didn't necessarily, as a young individual, teenager or whatever, didn't really understand really what that meant or the kind of the impact it would have on me. But where I sit now in my life, the absolute most fulfilling role, the role that makes me the happiest, the role and hat that I wear that brings me the most joy is that of being a husband. It is what gives me the majority of the fulfillment. It gives me reason and purpose in life. And it really is that of all the things that I do and all the hats that I wear, it's the one that I take the most pride in getting to do. And I think that, the landscape of how people view marriage in this day and age is getting a little bit muddled. And I think that we are incentivizing, especially young men, not to get married right now. And I think that's kind of a problem, because I do think that marriage humanizes a young man. It civilizes a young man. No, I'm serious. Civilizes them, and it teaches them responsibility that they really need, not just them personally, but society as a whole. And I think that,
right,
we could use more of that.
The first part that you just said, that was so sweet.
I appreciate you sharing. That was very, very sweet. But I think knowing, again, Chris's bias, I guess, is going to be
therapist. I get to just sling those truths.
Is going to be helpful. But I guess, one of the promos, I don't think it was in the one that we watched with the family members in it, but Jesse asks the question, like something about, can there be more than one, like the one? And I guess I thought that could be an interesting thing for us here to talk about, is like, do we think that there is such a concept as the one? And if so, what is the, like, can we imagine that Gerry might have found that with his first wife? And then what the heck's the point of all this? I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on the one?
I think yes and no. It depends. No, I'm just kidding. I feel like there's a one at any given time and place. And I think that, yeah, it sounds like Gerry had this lifelong love. And at the same time, doesn't mean that he can't find love again. And it could very well be just as deep and just as meaningful without even comparing the two, that it can be separate, and he can find love again and find it with somebody that makes up a whole different, this whole different part of his life that he's in now. And I also just think that thinking about how we can only have one person forever, or like we have to find that one person, is so limiting, and it doesn't give us enough of an opportunity to really go out there and find someone.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, I guess I tend to agree with you, Catherine. I mean, there's billions of people like on the planet, and so I think they're like, just by that fact alone, like there has to be more than one. And I don't think it's necessarily like the idea of the one. I think creates this idea that there's like a perfect fit, or there's like perfection in terms of the match. But I think it's more about compatibility, and that you can be compatible with more than one person, and maybe like what the compatibility markers are, or what you value or prioritize in a relationship, change over time, like you're saying. But no, I don't think I believe in the one. I think we can have multiple ones. I think it's, again, more about what you like, who's a good fit for you right now. And yeah, I think that's kind of how I'm thinking about it.
So I'm hearing I got to stay on my toes. Tomorrow I might not be the one anymore.
Better keep telling me about you loving being a husband.
Oh, wow.
You have to keep working at it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you guys are saying. I think that, all right, so conceptually, when people talk about the one, what we're ultimately generally talking about is, in kind of casual conversation, is kind of the concept of like the soulmate, or, that one perfect thing. This is what I would say is a twisted misrepresentation of what I'd say early philosophical works on the topic, right? And I won't delve into too much detail there, but what I'll say is that this is actually quite a sort of religious take, right? There's billions of, almost 8 billion people on the planet, and there's one person on the planet for you. If you believe in aliens, do you believe that your one might not even be on the same planet as you? The probability that you would find this one person, and that somehow you cross paths and stuff like that, is so astronomically small that you almost have to believe in some sort of higher power that would get you there, right?
Well, fate.
Some sort of fate, whatever, higher power, fate, whatever you want to call it. And that's just sort of like, so it's just at its baseline, you kind of, it's incongruent to have, kind of be on opposite sides of that opinion. Now, with respect to like, so what is the one? Is there a one? The answer is yes, there is a one, but it's not the one that you think it is, right? The view I take on the one is one that's kind of followed somewhat closely in like Judaism, right? And that is their conception of it is not that there is a one for you, and you have to go out and find the one. It's that you find the partner that shares your values and that you want to spend the rest of your life with, and you do everything in your power to be the one for them, right? Love is a verb. Love is the actions that we choose to consciously and voluntarily take on a daily basis, right? I can choose to be the one for Amy. I can get up every single day and say, I am going to do what I can to make her life better, to sacrifice for her. And that's what makes me her soulmate. She's not my soulmate unless she wakes up every day and does the same thing back to me. But the concept of the one and the soulmate, yes, there is a one, but it's the one that you choose to be for one another. And that's what the one is. If you have, what I'd say is there's a lot of kind of philosophy on this entire topic that I take that opinion from. And I think it's a very, very fascinating topic that I could talk about for hours. I won't bore everybody with it. But yeah, we choose to be right for somebody, or we choose not to be right for somebody. And it's, starts with a grounding of do we have that shared value? If we have shared values and I, choose to marry this individual, then I am choosing to be their soulmate and be whatever it takes to be their soulmate. And you have successful marriage when both of you come to that collectively together.
I think Chris loves love more than I do.
I know, what a romantic. But no, I like the idea that it's like still, even because I feel like the idea of the one like is about, this like fate driven idea. But in your concept of it, it is a lot more about the relationship and that you can grow toward being the one. And I think that makes it feel more kind of doable. And again, like helps build, like you're saying, like a strong foundation of a marriage.
Can I make one other comment on what you had said earlier about how you talked about there's all these billions of people in the world, and like you're entering into a relationship with somebody, and how do you know this is the one? And because the sort of more mainstream conception of the one, I personally think is unbelievably damaging to a relationship, because what it does is it basically tells you that, it's out of your control. There is a one person out there, and you either find them or you don't, but you're never going to actually know if you found this individual. Thus you are always sort of looking over your shoulder. Is what did I find the one, or is there someone better? Every time you get into a fight, well, that just must mean that they're not the one. That is not the way it is. But this is an awful, awful way to start a relationship or just be in a relationship.
Well, dating apps are play a big factor in that, because there's always more people like that you can swipe on. Yeah. And so I think that also perpetuates that idea of like, oh, they're like, they could still be out there. And I think when people like Gerry or like our parents were dating, like, I don't think they were using dating services. Dating apps weren't a thing. Like they didn't even know that the dating pool was larger than maybe their neighborhood or their high school or whatnot. And so maybe that's...
And the way they connected was almost always through community. And this is a big, big, big problem we have, is the breakdown of community in large part throughout, the country over the last, 50, 60 years. Is you're a comedian that like there talks about this all the time. Jared there.
Jared Freed. We love him.
He talks about how, what was it called? The auntie something or other. Mm-hmm. Basically, if you have somebody, a family, a friend or something like that, that's going to be sort of the liaison into connecting you, that people are going to be on the best behavior, one, and two, that person is also not going to connect you with somebody that they think is just awful for you. Well, that is the way relationships were started throughout all of human history up until about 5 seconds ago, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that is something when you look back on, they didn't have the dating apps. They were doing it the traditional way, and those traditional ways forced people to be on their best behavior. Also, the dating pool was so small that they were sort of forced to improve themselves such that they would be a catch in a very small pool. When you have such a large pool now, you're going to always find somebody with low enough self-esteem to date you.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I guess that goes back to Gerry's question to his family, like dating in the modern world is like how much of this, his like dating experience or dating mindset, relationship mindset does he bring into dating, 20 other women?
By the way, was there a thingy out there that showed all the women?
Yeah.
Oh, you guys didn't send me that one.
I'll send you that.
Okay.
We can discuss next week.
Now Gerry is like 70.
Mm-hmm.
Looks damn good for 70.
Sure.
He's kind of like your dad. Your dad could pass for like 52. Mm-hmm. Gary's kind of the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's kind of the same way. He looks really good for like 70. So what is the range of the women?
I think the youngest that is like in the 60 or so.
Okay. So we're talking, so it's like 10 year and the upper bound?
Maybe like early 70s.
Early 70s? Okay.
Yeah.
They're all in the same phase of life.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the producers didn't jam in
like a 40-year-old.
40-year-old or something like that, or yeah. You never know with the producers. Can I just say that I actually had a really strong the second Gerry opened his mouth, I felt a certain strong kinship with him. Can we talk about this?
No.
I can see it now that I know you're a huge sap, Chris.
I'm not the sap. I'm very, I consider my positions on things. But so.
See, we did find the right co-host for me. Someone else who loves love. This is great.
I love you.
Sorry, you love Gerry too, apparently.
No. I felt a kinship for Gerry. Okay. And I'll explain why. It's not going to be as sweet as you think it is. So as somebody who, I, like all other people, have certain insecurities, and one of my insecurities is the sound of my voice. I hate the sound of my voice when I hear it recorded. Like, I'll never listen to this podcast because I have to hear my own voice. When Gerry opened his mouth, I'm like, he's a bro with a weird voice.
His voice is a little...
It's a little like nasally or something up with it. And I was just like, oh, he's going to cringe when he hears his voice too. And so I felt that kinship because us bad voiced individuals, I feel it.
Love you.
I thought you were going to say because you're like 70 at heart.
I mean, that is our running joke that Chris is a boomer over here. But we will, I'm sure, have lots to discuss in addition to Gerry's voice in the coming weeks. So next week we meet the women, or Gerry meets the women, and yeah, first night. Are they going to be in the mansion?
I think so.
Okay.
Are the beach people? Is that happening?
Oh yeah, Bachelor in Paradise. That's also coming out next week. So Chris and I are unsure if we're going to be covering that. It's a lot of Bachelor content. But let us know in the comments, like, if you would like to hear our takes on Bachelor in Paradise, and we'll see if we can squeeze in. If I can force Chris to watch.
The problem with Bachelor in Paradise is that it's all previous people, and I won't know any of them.
I promise you'll catch the plot really quick.
Amy just outed you. You've watched all of these.
No. I worked on my laptop next to her while she sometimes watches them, But
yeah, so we'll see. But Catherine, I don't know. Do you feel like I'm in good hands over here in your absence?
If I didn't think so before, which I already thought so, like, I really think you are now. This is going to be really great. I'm really pumped.
I mean, so much pressure.
I know. I know. Catherine's the best. Sorry. You have some work to do.
I'll get a haircut for you.
Thanks. That'd be great. By next week. Okay. Well, Catherine, we're wishing you all the best for your leave. And can't wait to pick back up with you in the new year at some point. And we'll see what we're watching then. All right. And for everybody else, Chris and I will see you next week with night 1 of The Golden Bachelor.